What we're watching in Brazil right now is nothing short of a geopolitical collision. The spark came with the conviction of former President Jair Bolsonaro, sentenced to nearly 3 decades in prison for his alleged role in a coup attempt. It should be noted he was at Disney World in Florida when that coup attempt happened. The trial was unfair. It was overseen by their Supreme Court Justice Alexandre de Moraes, a man the United States now says has gone far beyond the bounds of judicial power. President Bolsonaro's son has joined us regularly on this program to call for sanctions against Moraes.
What Alexandre Moraes is doing is he's invading the U.S. jurisdiction, just like the prosecutors of the ICC, Karim Khan, did when he tried to jail Benjamin Netanyahu. So as President Donald Trump sanctioned with all-fact sanctions this prosecutor and his team of investigators, we think that the same thing can happen with Alexandre de Moraes and stop the justice of the Supreme Court from all of this persecution.
Those calls have been answered for sanctions. According to the State Department, Moraes used pretrial detentions, censorship orders, and financial freezes against political opponents, abuses that fall under the Magnitsky Act sanction framework. Moraes has been sanctioned. The foundation that financially supports his family has been sanctioned. Even his wife has been sanctioned. Brazilian goods now face heavy U.S. tariffs, some as high as 50%. The goal is pressure. Make Brazil's elite feel the cost of this overreach. But now it seems Bolsonaro won't face jail following an amnesty bill passed by the Brazilian Congress. So what is the political state of play in the most important economy in South America? With us now is the son of former President Jair Bolsonaro. He's also a federal deputy of Brazil's Chamber of Deputies. That's the equivalent of the U.S. Congress, Eduardo Bolsonaro. So, Eduardo, you came on this program. You called for Magnitsky Act sanctions against Justice Moraes. Those have now been imposed. What's your reaction?
Things are really working because 3 months ago, before all of these sanctions, before the tariffs, before the Magnitsky Global Act against the Justice Alexandre de Moraes, people in Brazil didn't even believe that we would be in a moment that we were debating about the amnesty bill in the Congress. So really, Trump is a genius. Everything that he's doing is working. And but for sure, in Congress, as you know very well, Matt, everything is a battle. So we are now in the battle in the House, and hopefully when we win, we will have the battle in the Senate. And what we are asking for is a full amnesty since 2019, when Justice Alexandre de Moraes opened his first investigation called fake news investigation, because this is the tool that he used to persecute the political oppositors.
You mentioned President Trump. He spoke today at the UN General Assembly right after President Lula, and Lula was ranting and raving about sovereignty. President Trump talked about the importance of resolving some of these conflicts. What did you make of the split screen of those moments?
It's very interesting because Lula was fully with hate, in a speech that if you close your eyes, you could see Nicolás Maduro doing the same way. And Trump, on the other side, he was offering his hand. And he said that he would like to have a meeting with Lula in the next week. Everybody got surprised with that. But then, still today, the chancellor of Lula da Silva declined a meeting in person. And he was talking about a call, maybe a video call with President Trump. So I think this is very bad for Brazil, because when you have the opportunity to go to the table with the real decision maker, that is President Donald Trump, then the president of Brazil refused to do that because, as he said, he is concerned that Trump can do with Lula da Silva what they did with Ramaphosa from South Africa, or Zelensky, or the British premier. So I don't think this is something that puts Brazilians, Brazil first. I think it would be a very low price for Lula da Silva to pay, only listening a little bit about Trump, doesn't matter what he is going to say, because you cannot lose this opportunity to talk about the tariffs, about everything going on in our region.
What are your father's plans now? This amnesty bill is working its way through the process. There's this conviction that we have serious questions about. Obviously, looks like a witch hunt to us. How is his condition? What is he doing day in, day out?
Healthily, he's not that good. He just discovered that he has skin cancer, and his health is not very well, to be honest. But what we are waiting like is for battles and keep it going on with the Amnesty bill. This is the only way that we can rescue our democracy. Other way, you are going to see, Matt, next year's election in Brazil, it will be with no real opposition. We will be in the same way of the Venezuela, which means that we will be a democracy only in formal aspects, but not a real democracy. Because it's not only my
Will
father.
he run again, Eduardo? If he is given this amnesty, will he run for president again in his current health condition?
Yes, for sure, yes. That's why what we say, we have the left and the right in Brazil. That's why the center in Brazil, they are negotiating ways that Bolsonaro can be kept outside of the next year election, but not in prison. This is what they want. Like Bolsonaro, okay, he's not going to jail, but he cannot run the next year elections. This is the main concern, not only the center politicians in Brazil, but also in the left. And this is how we are dealing now with the amnesty bill. But even so, Matt, I'm presenting myself to, in the case that my father cannot run, I could run in his name. And even like that, the Supreme Court now is running to convict me, doesn't matter about what crime, so I cannot run by the Brazilian law on the next year election. This is the level of the persecution in Brazil.
Are you worried that they might try to do the same thing they did to your father and try to jail you if the other tactics don't work?
They will do that. They reopened an investigation against me since Secretary Rubio in May said that he was looking for sanction Alexandre de Moraes. They just do not have shame anymore to persecute their opponents. Doesn't matter who. If you represent a risk for the establishment in Brazil, they are going to take you out of the elections. And we are fighting to keep there, running the elections as a regular democracy with the support of the United States for that.
There will be people who watch this program and say, well, that's sort of Brazil's problem. Let them work that out. I am of the view that this is a critically important trading partner, a critically important partner for stability in the Western Hemisphere. What case would you make to Americans about why the deterioration of democracy and human rights in Brazil is so important?
Because other way, you are going to lose definitely Brazil for China. You are going to be isolated. And only to tell you one matter about all of that, one issue that can come from that, we are all suffering with the biggest immigration crisis ever that it is now happening in Venezuela. 25% of the country already left Venezuela. If you bring 25% for Brazil, we're talking about 50 million people. Doesn't matter how strong is your border, this will be a problem for the United States. And then you are going to give a lot of minerals, rare earths, a lot of things to China. And this is not a good thing to do, because when they are strong enough, that they are going to come after the Americans.
And you start to wonder whether or not that China influence is why the Lula government is starting to look a lot more like China, why they're targeting their political opponents. They don't want people from the opposition to be able to run against them. It looks less like the Western Hemisphere and more like the Middle Kingdom, and that's something that should matter to all Americans. Eduardo Bolsonaro, a member of the federal deputies in Brazil, and our best to you, to your family, to your father. This is something that must be better, but I am glad that your call for these sanctions that you made on this program has been heard by President Trump and Secretary Rubio. We'll stay up to date. You stay safe, my friend.
Thank you, my friend Matt. Thank you, Rubio, Bass, and Trump. We will win.
Take care.